Hi guys, I'm Sherry and this is Gardening in the North. If you like the content that I've been putting out on my channel, then please hit the subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. And if you've liked the videos that you've seen so far, then give me a thumbs up. So today is tomato sauce making day and I'm so excited. I have pulled out of my freezer 90 pounds of tomatoes. That's right, 90 pounds. And that's right, out of my freezer. So one of the things that I do is as my tomatoes ripen up on the vine, I pull them off. And whatever I'm not using in my meals and lunches and stuff like that at that particular time, I throw them into Ziploc bags and throw them right into the freezer. And the reason I do that is to save time on processing day. So I don't need to cook these up now. I don't need to remove the skins and the seeds and, you know, boil them on the stove or anything like that. So essentially I've cut the amount of time that I would need to process my tomatoes for tomato sauce in half, which if you're a canner, it's exactly what you need to do. One of my tips for you that seems to work for me is I use Ziploc bags. And the reason I use Ziploc bags is so that I can reuse them. So I just put them into these bags, throw them in the freezer, pull them out. I empty them into big bowls so that all of the juice can kind of drain out as they're thawing out. And then I rinse my bags out and I put them away for next season. And it seems to work. I usually get 2 or 3 years out of them as opposed to using grocery bags that I'm probably going to rip or cut. And just put more plastic out into the world. So that's my tip for you. What I'm going to be doing today is, first thing I'm doing is roasting up some peppers and onions. So I'm going to roast these up. I'm going to put them in the oven at about 400 degrees for about an hour. And then I'm just going to throw these into the pot that I'm adding my tomato sauce to. Once I'm done processing all of these tomatoes into that pot, or pots, hopefully pots. I'm then going to use my immersion blender and I'm going to puree everything up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of lemon juice to every quart jar that I'm using. And the reason I'm doing that is because we don't actually know how acidic these tomatoes are. And I wanna make sure that if I'm using these jars 6-8 months, a year from now, I want to know that they're safe for my family. So I am going to hot water bath them, and because of that, I'm going to add in that lemon juice just to make sure that everything is safe. So to get started, I am going to be dumping a lot of these tomatoes into a strainer with a bowl. So you can see that I've done it here, and you can see the juice that has come out. And again, this is part of saving on the processing time. So I already have that juice pulled out. Whereas if I was boiling them on the stove and then dumping them in, they would still have a lot of that juice in the tomatoes. And so as they sit here, and I just give them a bit of a shake, more juice is dripping out. So just by me talking to you, I'm saving time. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be spooning these into my tomato press. So I'll show you what that looks like. So this is the one that I bought off of Amazon. And I think at the time that I bought this, I might have paid $35 or $40, something like that. But it seems to work really well. I know that there are a lot of other products out there that are a lot more money. And I'm sure that they're probably better, but this one works. So if it works for $35 or $40, why not use it? So this is what it looks like here. And it comes with a little tab here so that I can suction it right onto my counter. And then I just turn the lever here. Out the red nozzle comes out the skins and the seed. And out the white area comes all of that lovely pulp that we want for our tomato sauce. So I'm gonna start putting some of the tomatoes into the tomato press. And I'm going to show you how it looks as it comes out both areas. And then I'm going to get busy on doing all of these tomatoes. 90 pounds of tomatoes. So you'll notice that we're using a new tomato press, and that's because the one that we were using, it broke on us. So we had to go to my parents' house and use theirs. I guess that's a lesson for us, that even though the cheaper one was working, it maybe is better to buy the more expensive one. So the one that we're using right now was, I think, $80 at Canadian Tire. And you can see that none of the seeds are coming through into the sauce. All right, so we have one full pot that has been simmering for about an hour and a half now, and it is starting to get a little bit thicker, so we'll just let that continue. And then we have another pot that we're still adding to. And so we've probably gone through, I'm gonna say, about 60% of all of the tomatoes. Hey guys, it's been a long day of putting 90 pounds of tomatoes through the tomato press, but we have done all of those tomatoes. We have simmered down 2 big stock pots full of tomato sauce. I still have a huge bowl that will probably fill another stock pot full, but we're going to water bath can whatever tomato sauce we have in these 2 stock pots, and then I will fill one of the other ones up with the rest of the tomato sauce and simmer it off, and probably can that tomorrow night. One of the things that I want to talk to you about is having the right level of acid in your jars. You want to make sure that before you put in your tomato sauce into your jar that you're adding lemon juice. So if you're using quart jars, you want to make sure you're putting 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and if you're using pints, you want to do 1 tablespoon. Now, if you don't have lemon juice in your home, do not use lemons. Do not use fresh lemons, because you can't determine what type of acid that lemon has, and every lemon has a different level. So you want to make sure that you're actually using the concentrate from the bottle, and it doesn't matter which type it is, you just want to make sure that you're using that. Okay, so I have put 2 tablespoons in each jar. I'm now going to fill these jars up with the tomato sauce. I'm going to come to 1/4 inch from the top of the jar. And so if you look closely, you'll see that there is a rim around the top of the neck of the jar that your ring goes on. The top layer is 1/4 inch. So you don't actually have to measure it with a measuring stick if you don't have one. Okay? So a couple of the tools that you want to make sure you have your tongs, so that when you are putting your jars in and out of the hot water bath, you have the right ones. You want to make sure that you have your funnel, so that when you're filling your jars, you're not getting the sauce everywhere. You also want to make sure that you have your wand and all of your lids are in nice warm water, so that it loosens up the wax, so that when you put them onto your jars, it has a good seal. Okay, so we're just going to start layering them. Okay, so one of the things you always want to make sure you do is you clean off the rim of your jars. Even if you think that you didn't get anything on them, you still want to clean them off just to make sure. And the reason you're doing that is to ensure that you have a good seal once you put your lid on. So you're going to take your lid, stick it there. gonna place it in. Now you can see I've placed the first one in. You can see that it's probably about 2.5 inches from the top of the jar. As I put the other jars into the stock pot, the water is obviously going to rise up. But you want to make sure that the water level is 1 inch above your jars. So once you have all your jars into your pot, if your water level is not 1 inch above your jars, you want to add more. The other thing that you want to do is you want to put these into the stock pot for 35 minutes. So for 35 minutes, they're going to have the lid on and it's going to be boiling. That time doesn't start with my first jar. It starts when all the jars are in there and the water is boiling. Okay. And again, you want to clean it off. The other thing you're going to want to do, once that 35 minutes has stopped, you want to turn off the stove, you want to remove the lid, and you actually want to leave those jars sitting in that water for another 5 minutes before removing them. Once you remove them, you're going to place them on a towel or a cutting board or something to protect your counter, and then you're going to hear the magical popping, and then you know that they're good. Okay, so we got 16 quarts out of 2 stock pots, and I still have all of this left. Thanks for spending time with me.